The essence of it is really living in alignment with your menstrual cycle and creating from that place, birthing your creations in alignment with your feminine design. So we're not going against our feminine rhythms. We're riding that wave every month. And there's a deep piece around purification and emptying the vessel and being that channel for the divine to birth through us. So it's a deep, spiritual aspect, obviously, as well. It's like we are here as creators and here to birth what we came here to birth. And when I see women do this, and my journey of it is, you can't not be wealthy and attracting money and abundance when you are truly creating from this place, from the womb, from the body, from source, as an open vessel for source to move through you. Abundance comes. I think a lot of people are just creating from what they think they should be doing and like what they see other people doing, that made them wealthy, I'll just do something like that, copying them. This is not the formula. You've got to tap into your own vessel, like what wants to actually birth through you and your unique expression. It's really about uncovering the layers, the distortions.
The Becoming Flame podcast broadcasts pure, unfiltered power exchange that stokes the flame of your being. Because it's time to remember. It's time to return. It's time to become flame. Hello and welcome to another episode of Becoming Flame. Today, we're going somewhere really deep. We're talking about the link between the feminine, the mother wound, receiving, and money. Because I think for so many women, money is never just money, right? It's safety, or it's security, or it's that guy that we don't really want to be dating, but we are, or it's that marriage that we stay in, it's that abuse that we endure, it's support, or it's whether we feel held. It's all of these things that we endure when we don't have to. It's whether or not we feel held. It's whether or not we actually trust life to meet us. And it's whether our body believes it's safe to have more or to have to put up with something far, far less than we know in our heart that we deserve. Money is never money. When it comes for women, especially. But money is never money, right? So today I'm joined by Nadine Lee. She's the founder of Tantric Alchemy, and her work is all about feminine embodiment, sacred sexuality, and what she calls womb wealth. And what I love about this conversation you're about to listen to is that we are not just talking about abundance in the shiny surface level way. We are going to get into the deeper pattern. Nadine is a sexual abuse survivor. She has been through more trauma, more difficulty, more pain, more challenge, and has risen from it all. She's been through more and risen from more than most people will ever know in their life. And I'm talking to her about what happens when our first experience of the feminine, often through the mother, didn't feel like nourishing. What happens when love felt conditional or controlling or inconsistent or something we had to earn? What happens when we didn't feel safe? How does that then show up in the way that we receive money, receive love, receive support, men, opportunity, all of it, right? Because so many women are saying they want more money, more freedom, more expansion, quantum leaps, all of these things. But underneath that, there can actually be a part of the body that still doesn't feel safe to be held, let alone to hold all of that. So today we're going to go into that. I'm going to ask her a lot of questions. Now, Nadine has written a beautiful book. She has done so many podcasts. She has a very active Instagram. So if you want to know about Nadine Lee herself and all of the things that she talks about, I would really encourage you to check her out. Today, however, we are only going to be focusing on the smallest aspect of her work and her experience, which is really around the feminine relationship to making money and to receiving money. So this is a very narrow conversation. I really encourage you to listen to more of her story, more of what she puts out into the world. But if you're really interested on the role of the mother, the role of the feminine, and how it's potentially blocking you and your money, this is the episode for you. Tune in, and I'm so, so excited to be able to talk to Nadine about all of the questions that I have. Okay, let's get into it. Welcome to the podcast, Nadine. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You have such a beautiful presence on Instagram, and I know that so many women just love all the wisdom that you are able to share both freely and in your masterminds and in your one-on-one work. So it is just such an honor to have you here tonight. You're one of my most exciting guests that I've had on. So I'm so grateful. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's good to be connecting with another Aussie as well, being back in Australia.
Yeah. So as I explained before we got on, you have such an enormously valuable body of work. You have your beautiful book. I've already encouraged people to go ahead and read that. So tonight I just really wanted to focus so narrowly on one aspect of your work and really just go deep into that, which is room wealth of the feminine, of being able to receive from your feminine. I think
Mhm.
it's a very common misunderstanding uh, when people say go into your feminine, they really think of this as just like sit back, relax, think positive thoughts, be passive, and it'll come to you. Or the other side is like people are like, heal your masculine because your masculine's your own, like the only way that you can make money. And I think you have this really refreshing and beautiful take. And I'm so excited to just sit here and listen to you for as long as you'll spread your wisdom on what your lived experience, as well as the experiences of all the women that come into your container around feminine wealth energetics.
Mm, yeah, I mean, it's like a broad question, but I guess what came through just when you were saying that, yeah, around just like sitting back doing nothing. A lot of people think that's what, yeah, creating wealth and like doing business from your feminine is just sitting back and like I don't know, I don't even know why people associate the feminine with that. Like that's not what that's like one aspect of the feminine is like dropping back into receivership. But, in order to like we're not just like putting out nothing and then just money's just sprinkling over you. Like when you're really tapped into
Mhm.
your feminine energy, you are in your creative creatrix energy. So you're birthing things, you're creating things, you're living in alignment with your gifts. So there's this like expression, creativity that comes, which is an active energy and it's joyful and it's like what you came here to do. So, what I'm really all about is stripping back all the conditioning, all the distortions that block the channel, the creative channel, and block you from living your dharma essentially and creating what you came here to create. And then from that place, it's really like you can't not be abundant because you are, doing what you came here to do, creating what you came here to create. And then, yeah, you create it, you put it out into the world. And then it's about just like the universe receiving that and then you being showered in the abundance that comes from when you're creating from that place. So that's really been like my method. I wouldn't even say it's a method, but like that's just how I've operated for the past 14 years in business. I just have been so devoted to my soul's mission and what brings me joy and like following that like internal joy and my desires and what excites me. And that's been like kind of the strategy, if you will. And it seems to have worked, because it's like when I'm doing things that and speaking about things and teaching things that are genuinely alive in me and genuinely a passion and interest, people feel that and they respond to that.
Yeah.
And the universe responds because it's like, oh, great, you're doing what you're like, what lights you up and like what you're here to do. And that's what I really encourage women to tap into and guide women through is that process. So it's really about like stripping back all the good girl programming, what we think we should be doing, who we think we are, and just coming back into who we came here to authentically be and what we came here to birth as women.
And the women who typically come to work with you, what are the kinds of things that they're undoing? What are the main themes that you see over 14 years of doing this work?
Well, I would say the biggest one is that good girl programming.
Mm.
So, a lot of the, conditioning from childhood to conform to the tribe, conform to the family, do what others like, doing things that please the family, please the parents, the society. And yeah, I believe like, that's the reason I attract a lot of women who are in that journey is because that's the journey that I had to go through was like really,
Yeah.
like stripping back that good girl and like really finding like the truth, the wildness, the wild woman, and that part of me that honors myself. It's not here to please everyone else and live for everyone else. And so, yeah, that was a huge part of my journey. Like I didn't speak to my parents for like 2 years, and for the first like 5 or 6 years of my business, they just thought it was like some hobby or some phase I was in, and like always trying to convince me to just go back to the corporate, get a normal job, all these, it was coming from their own, like they wanted me to be safe and secure. Like it was coming from a good intention, but, they weren't really invested in like my authentic happiness and my soul. And yeah, so I had to overcome like so much of that. Like my family did not approve, did not support me at all in what I was doing. I was always like, the one that was just kind of going along with everything they wanted and pleasing them, getting the good grades, finishing university, being the good girl. And it was kind of like a shock that I just like threw in the towel one day and was like, fuck this, I'm doing what I want to do. And so, yeah, a lot of good girls like have to go through that because it's like when you've spent, 19, 20 years, the first 20 years of your life, or 25 years, even more, in this archetype and what everyone expects of you, and then you just all of a sudden stop living for them, it rattles the boat. And it's really the key to a lot of women's full sovereignty and like coming into their truth.
Do you
So
think everybody has a different definition of good girl, or do you think the good girl really shows up in a very societal formation? As in, there's some pretty cookie cutter stuff that happens, or is it very individual?
yeah, I think it's individual because it's not like, you know um for me it was like the path I was on. For someone else that could be like their genuine authentic joy.
Right.
So, like, or for example, like we see the mainstream path of a woman, maybe like it's finding a rich husband, settling down by 30, having babies, white picket fence. Like some people can see, oh, that's like the good girl programming we've got to break free from. But some women, that's their truth, like that's their
Right.
authentic joy. And so if that is, then go for it. But like if it's not, then you have to question like, why am I doing this? Like, who am I doing this for?
What were the specific things for you that the good girl that were the hardest to break out of? What were the ones that you were looping in for a long time before you're like, yes, this feels so good to be to be out of this now?
Yeah, I mean, there was so many at the start. Like, even just when I started to break away from the corporate world, I started studying my true passion, which was nutrition and nutro- naturopathy. And so I was doing like a double degree in those two, but I would never tell anyone that I was studying to be a naturopath because in my mind, the conditioning was like that was so woo woo. It was like hippie and like just had all these ideas of like that whole realm, but even though I loved it, I was so afraid to tell people. So I just tell people, oh yeah, I'm just studying to be a nutritionist, because that seemed more like societally acceptable and not as woo-woo as naturopath, which to me now is like, it's not that woo-woo at all. But back then it was for me. I grew up in like, pretty mainstream, went to all girls Catholic school, went to the best university, studied, the best business school, and went into mainstream like advertising agencies and magazines and fashion world. So I was very in that world. And but then I had this secret love for these things that I couldn't deny. So yeah, that was a big one. And then it just kept getting more and more weird. Like I overcame that. And then I started going into like the tantric path and sacred sexuality, and was resistant to that for so many years. And I would like be on the fringes. So I'd be the chef, like on sacred sexuality retreats. So with my nutrition business, I started catering retreats, and I was like always invited to tantra retreats, sacred sexuality retreats. And I was interested in it, but I never you know, shared with many people that I was like secretly studying that or wanting to go down that path. And I remember sharing on my Instagram a Tantra book, and some of my friends from university and high school saw it, and they were like laughing, like making fun of me, like, haha, oh my God, like you're a weirdo, like it was just, yeah, there was just so many circles I had to keep breaking out of. So, yeah.
I don't think I've ever met a woman who comes into her true ownership of herself who hasn't had to break all of those. And the stuff that you start off breaking, 10 years later, you're like, that's hilarious. But at the time, it was such a big deal, right? It was like, it felt like a death. It felt like a suicide. It felt like, I'm being so exposed.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's just so many more layers of it. It's like, even now, like, it's another identity and another like shedding. It's just, it's the journey. It's the soul.
Yeah, you might never end. And I feel like the comfort has to be in the fact that that's that's the beauty of this work, right? It's the constant meeting yourself in a greater depth every day and being like, it's okay that I was where I was at, and it's okay where I am today, and it's okay where I'll be, in 10, 20, 30 years from now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so how do you now define your wild woman? What's the definition for you of wild? Like, how does your energetic expression of wild get manifested? Because everybody's wild is different, as is everybody's good girl, right? And I'm so interested in like your personal expression of your wild.
Yeah. I was having a conversation the other day with some friends about this, and you're just reflecting back to the first kind of initiation into the wild for me was literally like moving to Byron Bay, living in a cabin in the forest, and it was pitch black, no street lights, in the cities and suburbs, it's never pitch black. There's always some light on. So like that was my first initiation into the wild, like literally going wild and feral. Like, I wouldn't like shave my legs or armpits. Like I was just embracing that, like feral, being connected to the earth, so connected to the earth and the natural rhythms. So that was like the first, expression, like kind of the hippie vibe. And yeah, I feel like it's evolved over the years, but now what I see as wild woman is really not having to like dress in a certain way or anything. It's just really
Mhm.
a frequency of being so committed to your truth and sovereignty and ruthlessly, speaking your truth, living your truth, walking your own authentic path. Like that to me is like the wildest, rebellious thing that like we can do. And it doesn't have to be like this loud, screaming, wild woman lunatic in the forest. It's like, I can just show up in my authentic expression, and it triggers people because, like your presence when you're in your sovereignty, in your truth, it in itself is a wildness because it can't be tamed. You can't be swayed, so that's how I see it now.
And I think it's interesting, right? Like there's always these swings to extremities that we take, and finding what the authentic truth is. And that can be really fun. But at some point as well, you also go, am I performing wildness, or is that really me? Is that really how I want to be? And I think it's really important to try on all these different archetypes, all these different stereotypes, all these different extremes of you, let them out. And then you sort of like give them their space, give them their expression. And you're like, okay, that's sort of run its course. And then
Yeah.
you come back to some kind of centering, centering of who it is underneath all of that, what the feral woman needed to say in the extreme, so that the centered version of you can still find that voice or still find that expression.
Yeah,
So it makes
exactly.
sense.
Yeah, and if you've, like, suppressed that archetype, like, or never explored it, whether it's, like, the wild woman or, like, seductress or whatever archetype you're playing with, like, I feel, yeah, if it's been so suppressed, it often swings to that extreme pendulum, like you said, and then, once you've explored the extreme of it, then it comes back to the integrated, like, middle ground. Yeah.
And I think that, we can see that playing out a lot with people who've been deeply traumatized, CPTSD, where sometimes the opposite needs to be experienced in order to find that equilibrium. I think the challenge a lot of the time is that we can get lost in those extremities and that constant searching and that constant sense of finding ourselves, or we find it so confronting to be in that other extreme that I see a lot of people reverting back into the cage that they first tried to get out of.
Mm.
So I'm interested in, when you work with clients, you obviously don't want to take them to any any extreme, re-traumatize them or create trauma for them, um, because that's the opposite of what you ultimately want at the end. I'm just curious how you're bringing women into this womb wealth, into this womb space in their feminine embodiment, even into just their self creativity, where so many women have literally grown up so suppressed, so unable to express themselves, so unable to create. What are those first movements that people who come into your world actually take?
Yeah, I mean, like, that's why I have kind of like layers, but I suggest starting with obviously reading my book. It's like a first like intro into it all. It's not like
Yeah.
it's not throwing you into like some intense like scenario like a retreat or anything like this. And then usually I like to guide them through the conscious menstruation practice first, like to tap into like the
Mm,
womb. So I have an online course for that called the Creatrix, which is really just guiding women through the 4 phases of the cycle and different practices and just really getting intimate with their menstrual cycle. And I find that's just such a gateway in, and it's like,
yeah.
we all bleed, we all have a womb, and it's, yeah, kind of like the gateway. And then, once the woman starts to feel connected to her womb again, like so much just reveals from that. And then she
Yeah.
might stay there for, a few months or a year or whatever, and then come to the next stage when she's ready. But it's good to like go in like phases, and not just like throw someone in, re traumatize them.
Yeah, definitely, because moving from a patriarchal or capitalist structure of 9 to 5 every day of the year, or, weekends off, the the disharmony with your own natural rhythm and your own natural cycle, and, so many women don't even know what day they're on, let alone the power of each of those days and, each of those points in the cycle, when you're supposed to be creating, retreating, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think that's why this emergence of, different working styles has been so valuable for so many women, because they can actually start to create in their most creative zones without a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday schedule.
Yeah.
But then a lot of women who are entrepreneurs and could create their own schedule, right? They slip back into that. So do you have any advice
Mm.
for women who are actually legitimately in charge of their own schedule, don't necessarily know what the first step into creating their own creativity schedule or their own womb wealth schedule could be?
Yeah, I mean, it would be. yeah, I mean, it's easier if they're working for themselves and an entrepreneur, but really, yeah, starting to track the cycle and, yeah, it's just about becoming more intimate with the cycles. So, like, not just like getting an app and tracking it. It's like through the course that I offer, the creatrix is like giving you different practices for each phase and different journal prompts, like really understanding, okay, like this is how my body feels in my luteal phase, this is how it feels in the follicular, in the ovulation. And then, from that, it's like integrating your business practices with those 4 cycles is the key. It's like, okay, so I'm not going to schedule like a big presentation or like a launch or something that requires me to be in my yang energy when I am bleeding, for example, because that's when you're in your most energetically yin. That's where you're, you know, ideally should be retreating and turning your energy inwards when you're bleeding. So, you can intentionally start to structure your, outward engagements around ovulation and, yeah, and starting to like really intentionally structure your months, years around your menstrual cycle. Like literally, my whole business revolves around my menstrual cycle. So, yeah.
And how does it work with the women? Do you have other women who are working with you? Do you all start to um, just communicate your own cycles and your own needs? And, sometimes people are working and sometimes people aren't, or are you sort of all in the same flow, or how is that working in your own personal business?
Like with my team or with my clients.
No,
Yeah.
well, I don't think that you could sync up with everyone, but I mean, if you have world domination through
Yeah.
cycle syncing.
Yeah. That would be amazing. But yeah, with my team, it's like pretty, you know, common understanding. Like, if I'm bleeding, I'll just let my team know, like, I'm not available for the next 2 days. And then when they're bleeding, I don't expect them to be like, getting things done on those days. Like, sometimes they don't have like as strict of a yin time as me, but I am very lenient with that. I'm not going to like, you know, push them to like get something done on the first day of their bleed. So, yeah, it's like very like female centric culture.
What do you do on your day 1 and day 2? How do you use that magic?
Yeah, so it's really a lot of reflection, stillness. So I turn off my phone. Ideally, like I literally just put it on, like I'll turn it off or put it on airplane in my room, like, and not even have it on me. I don't go on social media. I can see texts come through because, like there might be an emergency. There never really, I don't think there's ever been an emergency, but like I'll turn it on at the end of the day and see if there's texts that come through, but I don't respond to any. I can just see if there's stuff that's come through. Um, and yeah, and then I just spend the day like, journaling, meditating, getting massage, baths. Like I love to do creative things. So like get a canvas and do some painting, um, writing. So just all these creative things that often like, you know, and just creating for the sake of creating, not like, oh, I need to do this
Yeah.
like for my business. It's just literally tapping into that, like creating for the sake of creating. Like there's no agenda. So I really love to tap into that flow state because that gets me in that flow state and that zone of genius and just in that joyfulness. So yeah, that's really it. You'd be surprised like how much you can do without like doing anything. Like, I mean, I'm doing things, but I'm not working or putting any energy output. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I focus my time a little bit differently. I'm more in the reflection state. I'm more in the, I guess the inventory, like, how has that last month been?
Mm.
What was sort of the theme of that month for me? What is this intentional letting go of or shedding of? So for me, just because my energetics are really around letting go, like I'm a more of a carver than I have to carve out space before I can create. So my internal time is really around that reflection of what's leaving And
Mhm.
my creativity zone is really around like more that ovulation time where I've made the space. And
Mm.
now I'm like, now I feel I can create in that space and so I think for me, I had to learn to be okay with a void not being filled. And because I think that there's this very common, I guess, belief system that's like you always have to be doing something. You always have to be creating. You always have to be. And for me, my personal medicine has been like, and not creating
Yeah.
is like what I needed to learn, like not outputting. And that
Yeah.
was really hard, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. That was really hard, especially like that's part of my good girl theme, right? Of like not showing up for other people, not like I
Mm.
love that you have the discipline not to answer texts, even if you can
Yeah.
see them.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, it's not taking that much energy theoretically to respond to a text, but it is. Like if you
Yeah.
really think about it, it's like it's taking you away from your internal time.
Yeah.
And I think we have to be so comfortable in ourselves with being able to disappoint other people. So I really love that you can do that and you have not only the discipline, but the confidence in your own self and the foundation of your own self that's like, I'm not responding to you. This is my
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
You can wait 3 days for a response to this text, even in this like hyper connected world, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting what that does, like, to people, like, brings up all this anxious, it's just wild. Like, if you don't respond to someone for a day and they think that you're upset with them or something's wrong. And I just find that very strange because it's like, back in the day, like, before we had phones, like smartphones and all this, like, you just call someone on a landline and you wouldn't speak to them for, like, I don't know, a week or something. Like, it's just
Yeah.
really weird, this whole urgency. It's like, oh, we've got to reply straight away. It's like we're so dysregulated in this. And what I also do on those 2 days, because I don't have any distractions from other people and messaging people and, being on social media, looking at other people's lives, I all my stuff comes up. So I'm processing a lot of
Mm,
emotion. Like, so much comes up. Like, things come up obviously throughout the rest of the month, but like it's just everything that, yeah, wants to be released through the blood and through the emotions gets to be felt. And that is, yeah, for me, what creates the space for that month ahead. It's like a clean slate, like any unprocessed emotions get to be sat with, not just, just, oh, keep charging on and just
mm,
bypass over it. It's like, and then it gets worse every month if you keep ignoring these emotions. And all you have to do is just feel them and
mm.
they move. Like, feel it fully. And then, an hour later, you're back to normal. But we're always trying to
Because
avoid.
that's right. My first ever bleed was very much washed over. It was like, this is inconvenient for me, not for me, for the people who were taking me through that rite of passage. So my rite of passage was really like, this is inconvenient for me. This is not a great time for me. I really wish that you could have done this, like, in a couple of years' time. Okay, just take this, shove it up there, go and work it out, like just leave me alone so that I can do this.
Yeah.
And so every single time that I stop and I tell my body it is not inconvenient for me,
Mm.
it really rewrites that story. But
Yeah.
it's taken a bled for at least a decade before that consciousness of that knowing of how to rewrite that. And there's almost this feeling of like, I'm still, catching up on the decade worth of monthly bleeding where it was inconvenient, where it was just shove something in and keep going and just, change yourself to be more convenient for me. And so I
Mm.
love that what you're really standing for is like, my bleed doesn't need to be convenient for you. It doesn't
Yeah.
even need to affect you. Whatever's happening for you and your triggers and whatever's going on for you, that's yours. I'm over here changing my life and upgrading and releasing what needs to be released. So I'm doing the deepest work of the month right now. And your text doesn't
Yeah.
compare in urgency to what I'm doing. and just
Yeah.
like the fortitude to hold that. I think it's amazing.
Yeah. 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 And even like with my mastermind, we just started 2 weeks ago, and I started bleeding like the day that it started. So I postponed it. I just moved the call, like, after my bleed, like 5 days later. And all the women, a lot of them have been in my spaces before, so they understand my way. And they were just like, yes, amazing. Like, thank you for honoring yourself. And that in itself is a teaching. Like for me as the
Right.
guide, like saying, hey, like I'm about to bleed. I don't want to be showing up for you like half full and like resenting this because I don't want to be here. I authentically like do not want to be teaching, giving out energy on the first day because I'm not at my fullest capacity. So they would be getting a disservice, you know, and no one's winning in that situation. So I'd rather move it 4 days later when I'm like bled, feel good, resourced back, and then they get the fullness of me. And yeah, like, but so many people are too afraid to do that. It's like, oh, I don't want to like let them down, or
Letting
I,
them
s-
down. Yeah.
yeah, I said I was going to start on this day, and no, like, yeah. So I've done that a few times where I've had something like maybe my moon came, a few days earlier, and I'm like, it's on a day of a masterclass or start of a launch or something, and I'm just like, no, I'm not doing it. We're postponing.
Talk to me about how you became the kind of woman who can postpone a group of high paying clients whom you want to keep happy and engaged and all of those things, but that you also want to honor yourself. So, how did you become her? I'm sure that everybody's really interested in that because it's not just about canceling because you're bleeding, it's about always doing the thing that's right for you and integrous for you and showing up to serve in the highest possible way in any context, right? But always honoring yourself, especially coming back to this good girl where we put others first, we put others' needs first, we deplete ourselves. How did you actually show up to be her? And how long did that take? I guess is another layer of the
Yeah.
question.
Um, I think just because I spent so many years, yeah, when I started to work with my menstrual cycle and just really seeing how powerful it was and how beneficial it was for my creativity, for my work, my clients, like everything. I was like, this is a non negotiable. It's like one day of the month, 1 or 2 days are mine, and being a woman of service, it's not like we're just doing jobs, like you're just going to a 9 to 5. Like this is like a a soul path, and it's almost like you never really switch off in a way. Like you're always in this because it's like your dharma is like an extension of you. So there has to be some time where you stop giving out energy and being of service, so I was very clear on that. Like I don't want to be a martyr. I don't want to fall into these patterns of like martyrdom, and I want to actually serve, and you have to be full, like in order to serve and be in overflow. And so that practice every month, taking those 2 days a month, is that way where I just pull all my energy back in. Like I literally even do this practice where I like can see like anywhere where my energy is, and I like pull it back into myself, like any tethers in any conversations or with any clients or whatever's been happening that month, I pull everything back and I'm like, this is me, like my energy is mine. And yeah, and that fills me up so I can actually show up truly, in that next cycle. So yeah, I think because also I saw, we're speaking about the mother before we got on this call, but like my mother, I saw this pattern of like self-sacrifice, martyrdom,
Mm.
and secretly resenting like everything because she was just abandoning herself. And so I don't have children, but I see like my business as, and my community is the way that I serve and bring mother energy now. And I didn't want to repeat that pattern of what I saw my mother do, where she just like self-abandoned, but then
Yeah.
resented the children and resented everyone. And I'm like, I do not want to be that mother archetype. Like I need to self-source first and nourish and then overflow and give from that place. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really important what you're saying, because even though I think for a lot of people listening, they might have wondered why, when we're talking about womb wealth and the wealth of the feminine, we're talking about the, you know, the management of our calendars or of our monthly timetabling. But really, what it comes down to is exactly what you just said then. If you cannot fill yourself up, if you cannot act from the fullness of you, if you cannot then pull back into yourself, your own energy, and receive your own self, it's going to be very difficult for you to receive anything else. I'd love to keep talking, like hearing from your perspective, though, how these kinds of like really so called simple processes have actually changed your life. And especially in this wealth creation, perspective.
Yeah. So in terms of like, sorry, just like, can you repeat the question? Like,
Yeah,
just,
sure. I think what you were saying was this: in order for you to show up as the fullness of you, in your full energy, in your full expression, in how you want to be received in the world, you first had to receive yourself, right? You're
oh,
pulling all your own energy back in. So you're firstly receiving who
yeah,
you are and filling yourself up with the fullness of you and your own expression. Nobody else is doing that. Nobody else is giving it to you. Nobody else is validating you or telling you that, here's some energy for you. It's not coming from anybody else first. So these practices that you're doing each and every month on your bleed are the foundation. I'm hearing from you, at least, is probably what you're about to get into, is this foundation of a wealthy woman who's has womb wealth, which
wow.
is probably something that many women don't even understand what that's going to be. And I'm excited for you to get into it. But I'm hearing from you already that if you can receive yourself, if you can draw boundaries of, this is the time for me, this is where I fill myself up, that sounds like the foundation for receiving lots of
Yeah.
extra energies from various different other places. But correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just surmising what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's definitely a piece, self, like receiving from yourself, giving back to yourself. And that's definitely a foundation for receiving, from men, from money, from God, like feeling worthy to put yourself first. So it's like, I feel I'm important, like my bleed is important. I feel worthy to say I am not available, and then that's really a template, yeah, for the worthiness of everything else that we want to, whether we're open to receive in our lives, including money. And yeah, I think there's a big thing with receptivity. This is one of the biggest pieces for a lot of women, the block around receiving. I see this so much of my work, and it's linked with this martyr, giving out to everyone but not feeling like you're like at the bottom of the barrel, like everyone else's needs are way more important than yours, and then you get the scraps at the end of the day. And this is just so, like, so wrong. Like, the woman should be nourished first, and then she can fully give her fullness to the family, to the business, to everything around her, and then she receives back, from life, from her partner, from the abundance. So, yeah, receptivity, the blocks around receptivity is huge. And I think one of the key pieces with that, like removing those blocks, how it shows up, I see, is actually in our bodies as women in sexuality. So, like, if we are blocking, like, if I, like, literally our portal of receptivity, our yoni, if we have blocks there and like armor and clenching and tightness and pain, this is really a direct reflection of how open and receptive we are in life. So
Mm,
when I work with, like, receptivity blocks, it's not just like, oh, let's do positive affirmations. It's like, no, we're going to actually go into the body and see what's happening in your most receptive channel, your yoni. So we'll do like jade egg practice, yoni de-armoring, these really beautiful self practices I guide women through. They're doing it on their own. And it really helps like open up that channel of receptivity. Yeah.
What has that changed for you personally? I know that you've got a background that hasn't always been open and receptive. So you've had a really huge journey to come into this place today. And many women have a similar story, right? So how have you yourself seen the effects or gone through those portals? I mean, is it an up and down thing or is it a linear thing? Because I think a lot of women, they think it's just going to either do one de-armoring or one jade egg practice and then, okay, where are all my riches? So I think it would be really valuable to give like a deeper context around how long this may take, whether it's up and down, whether you're in and out, whether it was quite linear for you, just because, you're a woman of incredible resilience and someone who's overcome an enormous amount to be where you're sitting today.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't just like, yeah, one jade egg and then boom, like, but, it was a journey over a few years of really working specifically with sacred sexuality, healing sexual trauma. Obviously, if you've had any sort of trauma, there's going to be some more tension and blocks and resistance in your sexuality. So that was my experience. So I had to go on a bit of a deeper journey, a deeper dive into that. So yeah, and it's not like having some agenda with it. It's like, oh, I need to like de-armor so then I can get rich, because that's
Mm.
going to make you even more like it's just going to defeat the purpose and make it even more like tension. Like you want to really go in with like a compassionate self-love, not to get an outcome, you know? Like
Mm.
this is for you and for your deepening into your sexuality, into your femininity, into your receptivity and self intimacy. So much will blossom from that, your creativity. But yeah, like not having an agenda with it, obviously, or a goal. It's like,
Mm.
especially if we're used to like the goal oriented masculine way, it's like when we're working with
Totally.
the feminine, it's a spiral path. So yeah, and like that's one aspect of the receptivity piece. There's many others. There's like nervous system capacity as well. Like this was a big piece for me, like expanding my nervous system to calibrate to holding more energy. And that's a big piece because it's like when energy is moving towards you, like whether it's like masculine attention or money, anything that's coming towards your field, like if our nervous system is weak and we feel like not as like resourced, it's like harder to hold that level of power, and energy that's moving towards us. And so this is why often like when if we're not feeling, full power and fully resourced, there might be like energy coming towards us and then we deflect it. So
Right.
many women, you compliment them and then they like compliment you back or like they'll deflect the compliment. It's because of this, like, I can't hold that. It's too much. So it's like push it out. So that's been
Especially if they grew up with mothers who deflect that as well, right? Because our nervous
yeah,
system is made inside of our mother's womb. And so we
ex-
we inherit that from her. And so unless we change it, we have
yeah,
our mother's nervous system.
yes. Yeah. It's a huge piece. Like that's been a big piece of what I've been working with the past few years specifically because of just holding more. Um, so yeah,
Especially, yeah, you said your mom was definitely wanting you to have the safety of a 9 to 5 job. So her nervous system that you inherited wasn't made for holding this huge business that you and these clients and this, world life that you have for sure, right?
yeah, yeah.
So what were the steps for you in that?
Well, really just, I mean, I was doing a lot of Kundalini yoga, to be honest, and in traditional yoga, but these practices were, they're designed to strengthen your nervous system, to hold more Shakti, which is life force energy. So that's one aspect. And then that's what I kind of started with. Like, well, that's always been a practice, to be honest, throughout my whole journey as a foundation. But in recent years, it's been really about really inhabiting my physical body and doing like, integrating different aspects of my psyche. So I'm fully here, like fully present and integrated in the physical vessel. Because when we're not fully integrated and there's still fragments of our psyche from past traumas, like our nervous system is in like survival mode. It's frazzled. So when we're like fully here, rested in the present moment, we're regulated. The nervous system's regulated. So that's been a big piece in recent years, the past couple of years. So yeah, and just looking after the body, tending to it,
Mm.
sleep, like just basic things that you would a child, like good sleep, proper, like getting to bed every night on time, sleep schedule, like nutrition, nourishing, like feeding myself really high quality foods, like water, like just the basics, routines, rhythms, workouts, just really tending to the physical vessel. Like I think when we go into this spiritual world, we often overlook these basic ass things that are so fucking important, like the human, being a human. So that's been a big game changer actually, because yeah, I've had a tendency to, go into more of like the esoteric, the spiritual dimensions. And then, yeah, a lot of people, I think it can be easier and more fun playing in those worlds because, it can be a way to disassociate and bypass the human experience, but we're not fully in the physical body and regulated. And yeah, so that's been a big piece.
Yeah, I had another podcast guest, and we were talking about how, especially if you're a child who's experienced trauma, disassociating and leaving the body is the easiest thing. It's not even challenging. It's how you've lived your whole life. The challenge and the reason that we are here, and the reason why I think so many embodiment coaches, female embodiment coaches, experience trauma as a child, is that they know already that leaving the body is not the answer. They know that that doesn't do anything towards their ultimate goal. And the challenge and the work is embodiment and staying in the body and healing the trauma from within the body, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. It's so essential. And the spiritual practices, what I've realized is like there's such a like if you have that trauma response of disassociation, which is a common one, to flight, like leave the body, going into spiritual world, like getting high on all these plant medicines, getting high on like kirtan, like it's like, oh wow, I can disassociate and it feels spiritual. And it's like tricking
Yeah.
ourselves to feel like, yeah, I'm really spiritual, I'm doing this stuff, but we're like actually just staying out of the body even more and more and
Yeah.
not addressing like the true spiritual work is like facing all of this stuff. And that's what burns the karma.
Yeah.
It's not disassociating, getting high on plant medicine every weekend. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I started saying I'm not spiritual, but I'm seeking consciousness as a differentiation because I think the tendency to love and light your way through life it's the greatest way to never actually turn around and face yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you've got your yoni and opening up the receivership there. You've got your nervous system work, whether that's through kundalini, integrating fractions of your psyche. Is there any other aspects that I interrupted you, so I know you were making a list. Maybe you can go. I just wanted to go deep on those first things before we moved on.
Yeah. Just, yeah, tending to the physical body, like the fitness
Yes.
workouts, these things, they're the main ones really. And I love like just doing like there's a lot of really cool practices, just like vagus nerve stretches and
Mhm.
like, just some really simple somatic presencing. Like one of my favorite is just like orienting, like, and it's something that I actually used to do as a child, which I never even knew. Obviously, I didn't know anything about psychology as a child, but I would like look around the room and like name things in my room. And then I,
Mm.
studied this somatics presencing and orient. It's one of the key things is like, turning your head and naming like things in your physical environment to bring you into the present moment, like naming
Yeah,
smells, naming tastes, you know, just like the five senses bringing you here. So that's a really simple one that really just, you know, brings you back in.
that's beautiful. Okay, so you've got some beautiful practices, and I would love to move more into the womb wealth, if you can explain that body of work that you've birthed and you're bringing in and helping women through.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really just the essence of it is really living in alignment with your menstrual cycle and creating from that place, birthing your creations, in alignment with your feminine design. So we're not like going against, our feminine rhythms. We're riding that wave every month. And there's a deep piece around like purification and emptying the vessel and being that channel for the divine to birth through us. So it's a deep, like
Mhm.
spiritual aspect, obviously, as well. It's like we are here as creators and, yeah, here to birth what we came here to birth. And when I see women do this, and my journey of it is you can't not be wealthy and attracting money and abundance when you are truly creating from this place, from the womb, from the body, from source as an open vessel for, source to move through you. Um, abundance comes. And, you know, yeah, I think a lot of people are just creating from what they think they should be doing and like what they see other people doing that, oh, that made them wealthy. I'll just do something like that, or copying them. This is not the formula. It's like you've got to tap into your own vessel, like what wants to actually birth through you and your unique expression. So yeah, it's really about uncovering the layers, the distortions, and your dharma.
Did you birth this body of wisdom through your own womb? Can you take us through that process? Because I think it would help people to really understand in maybe a more tangible sense what you're talking about. Because I think a lot of women can say, yeah, I kind of know like who I am and what I love and my passion, and I love being creative, but like my external life doesn't really match up to what Nadine's talking about right now. Um, what is the nuance in terms of what you're doing versus live your passion, I guess, or like embody your passion? Because I think what you're saying is so much deeper, and I don't want anyone to miss it.
Mm. Well, I mean, if they're doing all the things they say they're living in alignment and then outward reality isn't matching, then maybe it's not actually in alignment because it should be matching. Like maybe they think that there's probably something deeper, that's actually wanting to come through. That's been my experience of it. And as I said, like I never had like this whole, past 14 years, my motivation was never money or Instagram followers. It was literally just to follow my joy. And like
Yeah.
my highest like desire was freedom and to live in alignment with my feminine body because I started out in the corporate and I knew I did not want to live that life. So I'm like, I want to create a life. I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to live free where I can, take 2 days off my bleed if I want, and I'm living in alignment with my body. I didn't know how that was going to happen,
Mm.
at all. I literally just knew that's what I wanted. And then there was just like so many years of just surrender, and just listening and following like the universal signs. Like it was very magical. And that's where I think people say they want that, but like it requires you got to jump off a cliff essentially. Like, it's this free fall. Like so much has to be deconstructed. So it's a really hardcore hero's journey that you've got to go on. And you're going to face so much along the way, but it's so worth it. And like, this is what we live
Mm.
for. Like, this is why we came here, So yeah, I feel if you have a desire, like it's really about like, it's where the body comes in, the sexuality. It's like, what's your deepest desire and the vision that you have for your life and how you want to live your life and what you value. Getting clear on those things first. And then the how,
Takes
yeah,
care of itself.
yeah, it's like in God's hands, really like, Yeah. And that's actually, you know, one of the deepest teachings of Jesus. I'm not Christian, I'm not like, you know, pushing any Christianity, but I do love like Jesus' teachings. But he in the Bible talks about like wealth, and it's all about that. It's like putting God first and then wealth comes. Whereas like most people are putting wealth first and money first, chasing that.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you articulated it in this way because I feel like over the years that I've had my businesses and my various iterations of what I'm doing, the number one question has always come to me of like, well, I'm doing everything right, but I still don't have any money, or I still don't know where my next paycheck is coming or where my rent check is coming from. And I'm like, well, where's your focus? You know, is it on this bigger, deeper mission that actually is held within you? And your desire is innately linked to the vision that you have, the gift that you are here to bring. I don't think that anyone here who's got this truly huge mission on this planet at the moment, it's not make $10,000 a month.
Yeah.
That's not it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you ask anyone, you ask any billionaire, whatever, that was never the goal. It was the deeper mission, that the assignment that God gave them. Follow this. This is your passion. Like this is what you're obsessed with, you know. And then the money comes. It always does, you know. But if it's not lighting you up, if it's not like truly like, you know, what you feel like you were here to do, then yeah, it's gonna feel clunky. And it's okay. It's just a redirection, you know. So
And so, how has desire and fear had its dance in your life, in your personal journey? Is that something that's always been, you know, the desire is always the fear of that desire being, you know, fulfilled? Has that always been, you know, on the other side, or are your fears quite different to your desires? Or, you know, it's always different for people. I'm always intrigued, like what they personally needed to overcome.
yeah, I mean, I'm still overcoming things, but like, yeah, the desire. I mean, yeah, that initial desire, yeah, I held that. And then, you know, I had all those initial fears of like literally losing my family, like being exiled. So they're pretty huge fears that most people like. That's the ultimate fear, is like you're going to be exiled, you're going to be kicked out of the tribe. And to our nervous system, that feels like death, essentially. So I feel like once I faced that, I was like, oh, I didn't die. So it's fine.
Did you face it in the sense that it happened and then you had to overcome it, or you just faced the fear and it never happened and it never needed to happen because you faced it?
Yeah, like, I mean, I was feeling exiled from my family, and I would feel that terror, like that I'm alone, you know? It's like
Mm.
that feeling of like, "Oh my god, like, I'm literally just I've got no one. No one
Mm.
truly supports me." And going into that, like, literally, because it felt like that, I knew that my family wasn't gonna cut me out, but, like, to not feel their support and, like, yeah, that was pretty huge to face that. Um, yeah, that was a big
I
one.
think for starseeds, light workers, whatever you want to call them, women with huge missions, that is one of the biggest ones, right? Because we're usually born into the family that cracks us open.
Yeah.
That's not natively aligned to living our sensual, sexual, erotic selves. You know, it's usually aligned to the opposite of that. So it's a really, really common one. Is there a piece of advice that you have for women who are facing that fear of alone, of exile, of ostracization from whether it's family unit or a friendship unit?
Yeah, I mean, it just comes back to that, like, self-honoring and thinking, like, just putting it into perspective. Like, I would put it into perspective, like, okay, so if I go back to that and I'm pleasing them and do this for them, they're all happy, but I'm miserable. So I would, like,
Mm.
logically, you know, it's like, why would I do that? but I know so many people do, you know, so it's the safety net. But yeah, like you can only do that for so long, I feel. Like you're eventually going to break free. Like there's something that's going to break that illusion apart, you know? Whether that's an illness or like, I don't know, something happens, it just strips all that away. So, and that's the true spiritual like catalyst, I feel like the Kali energy destroying everything. It's not true. Um, but yeah, I would say just finding like people who are actually get you and your mission, like that's important because your family
Yeah,
might never understand what you're doing, you know? So you need people that are your soul family that meet that need, you know, because
definitely.
yeah, it's going to hold you through that transformation. So seeking out,
And in
yeah.
terms of the womb, I'm curious, do you use your womb and the energetics of your womb, the creation of your womb to move through fears or, uh, see what fears are even held within your womb? Is that part of your practice?
Yeah, so everything that comes up during my bleed or the premenstrual phase, that's where all the subconscious material's coming up. So as I said, like create space to really go into those fears, go into the subconscious, yeah, whatever material is there. So, yeah.
And because you're setting that time aside in those 1 to 2 days or however long you can during your bleed time, do most of the rest of the time you're sort of clear from, I don't know, unconscious bombardment of this stuff? Like, because you're really training your body to be like, "Okay, on these 3 days, you have my full attention. Please wait until that time." Or is it coming at any time and you're just like, "Okay, I've gotta take 5 minutes. I gotta deal with this." Like, how is it for your body? I'm so curious because for me, it does happen a lot, but I get a central theme on that bleed time. And then throughout the rest of the month, I would say that what's coming up may be related to that in a nuance, but I don't necessarily wait until the next bleed time to deal with that. It's more like, okay, that's now in my conscious awareness. I'm going to deal with that. It's only going to take like 3 or 4 minutes, drop into my body, like deal with this in this moment. I mean, assuming that I can, but I'm curious because everybody's different. Like, how does it work for you?
Yeah. So obviously, yeah, things can come up throughout the rest of the month, and I'll address it in the moment. I'm not going to just be like, oh, I need to wait until my bleed. But I really see, so I talk about this, you know, a lot. It's like that premenstrual, the days before the bleed, you know, what they call PMS. It's not a syndrome at all. Like that's just where your subconscious is starting to come to the surface because the shedding of the uterus is happening. So with that, everything that wants to be shed is starting to come up to the surface, like all those emotions from that past month or even like previous months, it's all starting to come up. So that's when the emotions are more amplified, and most people just ignore that, and then so that's what results in a heavier period or like period pain or
Yep,
just like it just accumulates into the next cycle. So for me, I just really, yeah, really take note like of what's coming up then and really intentionally go into those emotions to their depths. And yeah, it seems to just not be like this because if I didn't do that, I would feel it as like the whole month ahead would be this like undertone of
yeah,
repressed stuff, you know, like through the month. Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And then at the ovulation time, do you also take time to sort of create and birth and sort of seed what you want for that next month cycle ahead? Or is this more about the letting go stuff for you?
Yeah. Around ovulation is more like the time where I'm in my like yang energy. So I'm like launching things, putting things out into the world, like, you know, maybe running a retreat or if I've got a retreat or workshop. So I'm like out in the world. So I more create like, so I'll get the visions in the menstruation and then in the follicular the week after is like when I'm kind of, you know, putting things together. And then I would launch it, say, in the ovulation. Like if I just had an
Yeah,
idea come through, it might take more, 2 cycles, but like I would receive the downloads in the stillness and then start to action it, like
liberate. Yeah,
create it, and then launch it, like put things out in the ovulation, because that's when I'm most like the sun, the yang energy.
got it.
Yeah.
And how long have you been working this way for in terms of number of years?
Oh, I would say like 10 years. Yeah.
Okay, so this is like a well-oiled machine at this point. How I mean, obviously your business has done well over the last 10 years, but do you even remember what it was like to work in this other way before working with your menstrual cycle to compare the difference? You probably don't
Um,
even remember. It's
yeah,
too long ago.
I just remember being in corporate and just having like so much energy around my ovulation. Like I was aware of like the cycles, but I didn't like track it or take time off or anything.
Yeah,
I remember just being so productive for like 2 weeks of every month. And then, around my bleed, I would literally just be like, I just didn't care about
right.
anything. And my bosses would be like, yeah, I just noticed that, you're not very productive. And yeah, so
Noticed that you were a woman, and I was wondering if you could, like, not be one.
can you be yang 24/7? Just be on.
This has been such an interesting conversation. I think what you've really distilled today in the conversation and the takeaways that I'm really coming away with is that every single woman has the capability of creating abundant wealth for herself because she has a womb, because she has the feminine energetics. All she has to do is start working with her body within the cycle, with the natural ebbs and flows that she's already in, knowing how to use those internal still points of time to release what needs to be released and to bring in the insights that are so that if you just give yourself a day of silence with no distraction, with no external noise, you will come into such a finely tuned reception of the wisdom for the month ahead that it will just make your job so much easier. And I think people keep on thinking ChatGPT is so amazing because it gives me so many ideas, but it's like you don't need 3,000 ideas. You need the one perfect idea that's energetically matched to you that your body is already having the technology to receive. And I think this conversation has been such a reminder for women that they are the biotechnology that they need, that they are the reception of these ideas, of this wealth, of this energy, of all of these things that they need. And that they can just use the cycle and the technology that's already available to them to be that attractor and that magnetic force for what's actually available for them. So
Yeah.
I think that you've made it so simple. And every time I tried to ask a question about like, well, there's all these really complicated theories out there. And you're like, no, it's just really, really simple. And you've just come back to basic foundations, every single question. And I think that if you really listen to every explanation and every way that you've explained it, really is, this is available, use it.
Yeah. It's within every
We
woman.
complicate things unnecessarily, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I would love for you to just leave our listeners with the most alive part of you at the moment that you feel is just needing to be said and shared. And then I want you to let everybody know how they can work with you.
Yeah. What's most alive? Mm, yeah, I think it's just that, it's like, yeah, just coming back to the basics and following the desire and joy, it doesn't have to be so heavy and complicated. Like, yes, we have traumas and stuff like this, but like, it's okay to also just follow what lights you up and enjoy the process. And enjoy being a woman and,
Mm.
embracing that fully. that's in your body waiting for you to address and meet her. Yeah, that would be my final words. And yeah, how you can work with me. So at the moment I've got a mastermind which it's already in motion called Dharma and Desire. So that's probably going to be running again later in the year. That's for women who are really wanting to create, lead, and influence from pleasure, not pressure. So it's really bringing in a lot of these womb wealth concepts and like feminine leadership. And I have the online courses. So the creatrix, which I mentioned, which is probably the best one to start with if you're new on this path. And I've got a few other courses, self-paced, which are really good to like tap into your sexuality, your body, and yeah. And then I also offer one-on-one mentorship.
Beautiful. I think what you said as your magic is it what's most alive right now is such a beautiful counterpoint to what you spoke about earlier around the martyr being such an energized and active aspect of all women, especially mothers. Mothers being birthers, being creators, being those who can birth new worlds and wealth and all of those things. And it's like if joy is the counteractive to the martyr, I mean, just go and enjoy your life. Just go and do what lights you up. Just go and do what brings you pleasure, what activates your creator. You know, I love how simple you make it. I think it's so accessible how you speak and how you make this just so easy to understand. So thank you for the work you do. You're just absolutely brilliant. You didn't mention your book. Please tell
Oh
people where they
yeah.
can buy your book as well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so you can get my book. It's called Sex Priestess and it's available on Amazon. So just in any country, type in Sex Priestess by Nadine Lee on Amazon, it will come up. Or you can go to my website and the links are there. But yeah, Amazon's the easiest.
Nadine, thank you so much for your time today. I personally I'm really walking away with this is so much easier than anyone's making it out to be. And it really, it really doesn't require 1,000 steps. It really requires follow your joy, follow your desire and live that way. So
Yeah.
thank you for making this so simple, so accessible, and for all you do and all you be in this world. You're just amazing. So thank you for your time today.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.